Let's go over the answers to this Chapter 6 quiz review, and it's going to be on mid segments and triangle inequalities. So here are the answers. Okay, so the first thing you need to make sure you know how to do is find the midpoint. So I want to find the midpoint of AB. I have it labeled D. And the simple formula, you can see it right here. You simply add your x's and then take half of it. So I'll take a -4 plus 6. If you can do it in your head, great. If you struggle with calculations, please use a calculator. Do not get calculations wrong. But I know that 6 plus -4 is 2. Half of 2 is a 1. Okay, then I have to add my y's. 5 and -1 added together is 4. Half of 4 is 2. Okay, so there's our answer for D. Let's go on to E. So for E, I need to take 6 plus 8, which is going to be 14. Half of 14 is 7. Okay, when you add your y's, 5 plus -3 is 2. Half of 2 is a 1. Okay, and then the last one, we're going to find the midpoint, which is F. When you add your x's, you're going to get a 4. When you take half of 4, you get a 2. Okay, I add my y's, I'm going to get a -4. Half of -4 is a -2. Okay, so that should be very easy at this point to be able to find the midpoint for each side of your triangle. Okay, now we're going to use that, and we're actually going to be able to show that we should know the mid segment is parallel to the opposite side. And then whatever this length is, when you double it, you'll find the length of the opposite side. So once again, I'm going to make you find the midpoint. So for point D, in between A and B, I add my x's, I get -4. Half of -4 is -2. I add my y's, I get -8. Half of -8 is -4. Okay, so then I need to know E. 0 plus 12 is 12. Half of 12 is a 6. -10 plus 14 is 4. Half of 4 is a 2. Okay, so we need, this has to be correct in order to be able then to show that we're going to have parallel. Okay, so let me position it so we can see DE. So we need to find the slope of DE. So simple formula, we put our y's up top, and then the corresponding x's we subtract underneath. Okay, so I'll start with -4, and I'm going to subtract 2. So that's going to give me a -6. And then on the bottom, I'm going to put my corresponding x values. I must start with -2, and I must say -2 minus 6, which will be -8. Two negatives make a positive, and I can reduce that to 3/4. Okay, so I know the slope of DE is 3/4. Now, again, this is not drawn in perspective. So again, if you would actually plot these points, you're going to see that DE is actually going uphill. So again, this is just a reference. So this, though, is a positive slope. I better get the same value for AC. Okay, so when I do AC, I'll take 2 minus 14. So 2 minus 14. And then I must take my x, -4 minus 12. So I'm going to have -12 over a -16. And when you reduce, two negatives make a positive. And then what you need to realize is when you reduce, you can divide each of these by 4, and you're going to have 3/4. Okay? Or you could take your calculator. So let me just quickly show you this. I could actually take -12 divided by -16. It's going to tell me 0.75. Math, enter, enter. It's a 3/4. Same. So that's what we have to be able to show. We have same slope. Therefore, since the slopes are the same, we can conclude DE is parallel to AC. That must always occur. Okay, so please make sure you understand that. Now we're going to find the distance. So we'll start with the distance. I'll show the work up here. So the distance from D to E. Simple formula. I have the formula right here. So just be careful, and I'll show the work. Okay, we must subtract our x's, and then we're going to square it. So when I take my x's and I subtract, I'm going to have -2 minus 6, or I can take 6 minus -2. It doesn't really matter. And I'm going to get either an 8 or a -8. Okay, but when we square it, I need you to realize it's a positive 64. It can never be -64. So just be careful if you're going to use a calculator. Then I'm going to subtract my y's. -4 minus 2 is going to be -6, or 2 minus -4 is going to be +6. Either way, -6 times -6 is going to be a 36. When you add these together, so 64 plus 36 is going to be 100. When you take the square root of 100, you get 10. Okay, so the small side is 10. So I can conclude, I know this is 20, but I want to see the work. It has to be 20, but the whole idea is we need to show the work. We need to justify why it's going to be 20. So show the distance of AC. So with AC, I will once again subtract my x's, subtract my y's. So when I subtract my x's, I can take 12 minus -4, -4 minus 12, it's going to be -16. When we square it, in fact, I'll square it. If you're going to square a negative, wrap it in parentheses, okay? It can never be negative. So it's 256. 256. And then I'm going to subtract my y's. 14 minus 2, or 2 minus 14, it's going to be 12 or -12. I'll just put a 12. And I know that's going to be 144. 12 times 12 is 144. So I'm going to add 144, and we're going to have the square root of 400, which I need you to understand is 20. Okay? So what we can conclude then, and this is always the case, that this mid-segment is equal to half the opposite side. So in this case, AC, I can show very easily that 10 equals half of 20. Now, you could also double DE. You could say 2 DE equals AC. Twice the mid-segment equals the larger side. Okay, so again, that's going to be the problem that takes up the most amount of time on your quiz. But if you can follow this, the question on your quiz is going to be very easy. This next page, we start off with a problem where we're going to be comparing the angles, okay? And it should be very easy then, once we see the angle measurements, to be able to tell which side is our shortest and which side is going to be our longest. So the first thing you want to do is add the two given angles. That adds up to 119. I'm going to subtract that from 180, and I'm going to see that this is 61 degrees, okay? But the side opposite my shortest angle is going to be the shortest side. So my smallest angle is angle A, the side opposite angle A, and thus the shortest side is BC, okay? My longest side is the angle that's opposite to 85 degrees, and that's going to be side AC, okay? Super easy, should be very easy to reason out that answer on your quiz, okay? So then the next one, we're going to label some stuff. We're told that E, F, N are mid-segments, so again, we can mark this up, okay? These are all midpoints, so therefore this segment has to equal this segment, okay? So types of questions I can ask. If I tell you a mid-segment, Fn is a mid-segment, it has to be parallel to the opposite side. So now use this entire side. So it's going to be OG or GO. So I'll go with GO. Okay. OU. So OU, this side is going to be parallel to the mid-segment EN. EN. They have to have the same slopes. Okay. So then I would label this, if I tell you G, what is it? GU, this entire thing is 10, then EF, the mid segment, has to be half. So it's only going to be 5 units. Okay, so NF, so NF is going to be an 8. I'll squeeze a little 8 right there. And then I'm going to ask for GO. We know the side opposite the mid segment is double. So 2 times 8 is going to be 16. Okay, let me get rid of that 8. But this side would have to be 16. And then if UF, so where's UF? UF is 7. And then I'm going to ask for NE, okay, which I am hoping, so if this is 7, this is 7. The entire side would be 14. The mid segment has to be half of 14 or simply 7. Okay, so we're going to be seeing that the mid segment is equal to from the midpoint to a point. Okay, so let me erase those numbers. And the last question, you're guaranteed to see this problem, and I need to see the work and stuff. I am telling you EN, so a mid-segment EN is going to be equal to OU, which is this expression. Now, you could take half of OU, but I'll tell you right now, it's easier to double the EN. Okay, so if I take the mid-segment and multiply it by 2, that's going to equal 5x minus 4. Now, you could take half, but since it's an odd number, you have to deal with 2.5. You'll still get the same answer. But I would much rather just double this, get 4x plus 2. So make sure you distribute properly. 5x equals 4. I'll subtract the 4x, get an x on this side. I'll add my 4, and I'll get x is 6. Okay? Now, don't stop there. You don't put a 6 here. I want to know the actual value of EN. So what I need to do is plug a 6 in right here for this x. EN is 2 times 6 plus 1. That's going to come out to 12 plus 1, which is 13. Okay, now if you have time, you can plug your 6 in to prove that you're going to get 26. Okay, so this has to be double 13. So if I would plug a 6 in, 5 times 6 is 30. Take away 4 would be the longer part is going to be 26, double the 13. But this is what I'm asking for this problem. Okay? The next problem should be very easy to figure out the dimensions of all 3 sides of this because I just want to do the perimeter. I want to add up all 3 sides. So I tell you right away what BA is. So I tell you this length is 7 units, okay? Then I tell you DF, so DF, I tell you the mid segment is 5, which means the opposite side has to be 10 units. And then I tell you AF is 3, well, that's from here to here. This is the midpoint, so this also has to be 3. So the entire AC would have to be 6. So all you have to do then is add 6 plus 7 plus 10 for a total distance around that triangle to be 23. Okay, pretty easy. And then here, we know the longer the side, the bigger the angle. Okay, so when I'm looking at these dimensions, I know my smallest angle is opposite the shortest side, which in this case is the side with the 7. So angle A must be the smallest. My middle, I don't ask for the middle, but that would be B. Therefore, angle C must be my largest. Okay, so again, very easy. These are short answers, but we have to keep things straight when we take our quiz. Okay, this third page, you have to be careful that you're comparing all the sides of 2 triangles. So what you need to realize, the triangle on the right here, this shared side is actually the longest side of the triangle on the right. So the first thing we need to do is make sure that we realize this angle is 60 degrees, okay? So when you're comparing the sides of this triangle on the right, the side opposite the 45 is the smallest. So that is your DA or AD, and that's going to be the shortest one out of all the sides. Okay, so this one is the shortest. The next shortest would be BA. BA. And then the side opposite to 70, the one that's shared, okay, the triangle on the left, we share this, and that's the shortest side on the triangle on the left. So that's going to be DB. So DB or BD, it's up to you. And then when we look at this triangle, we're going to, again, know that this is 55. So then the next longest side would be CD. So side opposite to 55, because opposite to 25 is DB. So opposite this is CD. That'll be next. And finally, the biggest side out of all the sides is the side opposite the 100 degrees, and that's CB. Okay, so again, you have to reason out. You have to be able to compare. If you share a side, use that as your comparison point. Okay, this next section should be easy, but you need to make sure that when you add 82, that sum is bigger than the third side. Okay, so we're going to quickly go through this, and you're going to see right away that when we add the 6 and 2, okay, 6 plus 2 is 8, but you're going to see that 8 is not bigger than 9. So if you add these two together, it's not going to be bigger than the third side, so that's impossible to have a triangle with those dimensions. Okay, where with this one, 3 plus 9 is 12. 12 is bigger than 7. 9 plus 7 is 16, which is bigger than 3. And 3 plus 7 is 10. 10 is bigger than 9. So this checks out. So that is a yes. And then here, if you look, it works for 10 plus 1. That is 11, which is bigger than 9. But if you take 1 plus 9, you're going to see that 10 is not bigger than 10. Okay? And therefore, it is not possible to have a triangle with those dimensions. So please be on the lookout for that. And then I promise you this next question, all I can do is change the numbers. So I want to know the possible measurements for this third side. Okay? So given a 15 and 10, I'm going to subtract and I'm going to get a 5. 5 would be, it would have to be greater than 5. 5.1, 5.001, it just can't be equal to 5. So anything bigger than 5, but then if you open it up to its widest point, you have 10 plus 15, which is going to be 25. So it has to be less than the 25. So again, you just subtract the numbers to get the lower end, add them together to get the higher end. Okay, and anything in between would be a possible third side. Okay. And then here, we're going to have this hinge theorem. And what you need to realize is we have two triangles, but they have the same side. This side and this side is congruent, and then the shared side, the reflexive property. So then we can compare these angles. So now notice the side opposite this included angle, it's a 6 for both. That would make them equal. Okay, so whatever the measurement is, they would have to be equal. 30, 30, 25, 25, all we can say is that they're equal. Okay, so here we have another comparison. We are comparing KL to MN, the side opposite the bigger angle, so the opposite the 35 as opposed to the 19. I know MN is the larger side. So again, the Pac-Man eats the larger side. So KL is less than, it's smaller. Okay, so it's opposite the smaller angle. Therefore, that side has to be smaller than MN. MN is the bigger. So if I read backwards, MN is greater than KL. KL is less than MN. That's how we read inequalities. Okay, so then our last page is just some more of these comparisons. Okay, so we're comparing where we have congruent sides. Okay, the sides are the same, and then we just have to look at the angle. And of course, the bigger the angle, the bigger the third side. So BC is definitely going to be larger than ED because 110 is bigger than 95. I need to use the inequality of greater than. Okay. So then number 18, here's my shared side. And so what I'm trying to compare is J, what is it? JI, let's see. Yeah, JI, I want to make this comparison. So we have this angle and we have this angle. So what you need to realize, we have to do a quick little math to realize this is 35 degrees. Okay, so add these together, subtract from 180, you're going to get 35. This is, add these together, subtract, we're going to get 45. So obviously the 45 is the bigger angle, so the side opposite the 45, the JI must be bigger. So I put a greater than symbol. This is my larger side. So again, just compare the angles. Okay, 35 compared to a 45, 45 is bigger. Therefore, this side that corresponds to 45 must be larger. Okay, the last one, we're comparing angles 1 and 2. And so obviously, we don't have to solve for x. Whatever x would be, you know that angle 1 is going to be larger. So if x was a 5, you're comparing a 15 to a 25. I know that angle 1 must be larger. Okay, so depends on what they give you. They either will give you the side or the angle, and we can make an easy comparison to know which side's bigger or which angle would be bigger. That is everything you need to know to get a very good grade on your next assessment. So we're coming to the end of the marking period. So I want you to make sure that you take the time to make sure everything on this review, it makes sense to you. Make sure you look back at some of the big idea questions, because that's what you're practicing. You're practicing these problems, look over the notes, and you should be more than ready to take this assessment. Thanks for watching. Take care.